Many buyers are not sure what to think about the sudden drop in the price of XRP, which has shocked the crypto community. But let me tell you the truth. There is more to this crash than meets the eye, and the fear on social media shouldn't fool you. What's really going on with XRP? Is this the end of the line, or is there something bigger going on? The story of a crash is being pushed by there's a lot more to the story than what the media and some investors say, and we have proof of it. At the moment, it looks like everyone is selling their XRP out of fear, while others are sharing false information to make people afraid. But what if this price drop is just one part of a bigger plan to control the market? What if the fear is just a trick to get people to buy more? Loss-making sale, making the product cheaper for other people to buy. When we look at how XRP has done, we've seen this kind of shift before. Once there is a drop or adjustment, it doesn't take long for the bad news to start making the rounds. In reality, prices will always change on the cryptocurrency market, and it's not unusual for coins to go through strong. It falls and then gets stronger again. But something is different this time. This drop is being talked about as a crash, as if XRP is doomed to fail. But there's a deeper story here that not everyone is talking about. In fact, there's a lot of proof that this is less about the basics of XRP and more about market manipulation, panic selling, and the big names in the crypto world and their impact. The information you have now about XRP is not all there is to know. When prices are going down, it's easy to get scared, but it's important to take a step back and look at the facts. There are still good reasons to buy XRP. Its functionalities are still strong, and its relationships with big banks are still growing. This is really just the crypto market, which is very unstable, going through a normal downturn that's being sped up by rumors and false news. Stay tuned and we'll show you why this so-called crash is really just a trick to get weak hands to give up. In fact, now might be the best time to stand firm and trust for the long run. The promise of XRP, we now know that this price drop isn't what it seems to be. Let's look into what's really going on with XRP and why this crash is probably the result of market manipulation and normal cycle behavior. To begin, it's important to know that the cryptocurrency market is known for being very swingy. This isn't new. A lot of big price changes have happened in cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and even XRP. We've seen price corrections in other assets, including cryptocurrencies, and what we're seeing with XRP now is no different. A quick drop or short-term crash is often caused by people taking profits as the market changes. Mood, or even outside factors like world economic events or regulatory news. Even though these changes are scary, they only last for a short time and don't usually mean that the asset itself is broken. So why does this crash feel different? That's because some players are having an effect on the market, and we need to see the wider picture. For when big investors or whales decide to sell all of their stocks, they can cause the market to drop sharply, which can make small investors panic. These big investors know that small investors will sell quickly when prices drop because they think the worst will happen. So they take advantage of these times to mess with the market and drive down prices. When this happens, most small buyers' first instinct is to sell off. They sometimes lose money on their trades, which lets the whales buy back in at a much lower price. But here's the catch. You can see from the on-chain data that people who have held XRP for a long time haven't been selling big amounts. The data shows that people who really believe in XRP's long-term promise are holding on to their assets and not selling them all at once. Selling off, that being said, this so-called crash is probably just the work of a few big players who want to change people's minds and make the market scared. Once the panic dies down, they'll be the ones with more XRP at a much lower price. Also, let's look at when this price drop happened. This is taking place while the market as a whole is going through changes. XRP isn't the only thing that's going down in value. Price drops are happening to other cryptocurrency too, which is more proof that this is a normal cycle. Still, it's important to remember that XRP's long-term foundations are still strong. The company behind XRP, Ripple, is still making big steps forward in the world of finance, with its agreements with big banks and its role in making fast, low-cost cross-border payments. Even though the price dropped for a short time, these things haven't changed. In the grand scheme of things, this crash is just a normal market correction that was made worse by trickery and fear of XRP's real-world use case, and growing institutional adoption are still going strong. It's easy to get emotional when prices change in the short term, but it's important to keep your eye on what really matters: XRP's long-term value offer. So don't believe the news or the quick drop in price. The basics are still strong, and the crash is probably just a trick to get rid of the market's weak hands. If you've been keeping XRP, now might be the best time to double down and keep it. There is still a lot of hope for XRP in the long term, and this short-term correction will probably go away just like all the others. The proof that this drop is not the end for XRP is now ready for you to see. We've talked about the bigger picture and how this crash fits into it. Could be because of market abuse and normal price changes. Now let's look at the real proof that this drop isn't as bad as it seems, and that XRP is still going strong. First, let's look at the info on the blockchain. On-chain data is the data that can be gotten from the blockchain itself, and it can tell you a lot about how investors act. One important thing to keep in mind is that long-term users, XRP people who have had their assets for a long time, are not selling them in big numbers. In fact, the data shows that the number of wallet addresses that plan to hold on to XRP for a long time is slowly rising. This shows that investors who think XRP has a bright future are not giving up or freaking out. People who have held an item for a long time usually have a lot more faith in it, and they know that the crypto markets can be unstable. Short-term traders who sell off their positions in response to price changes usually do so out of fear or speculation. These are the weak hands who act quickly when prices drop. Short-term buyers, on the other hand, aren't as affected by price drops. They're looking at the bigger picture, which is why they're not giving up their XRP. So the on-chain data shows that the true believers in XRP are standing strong, even though the market is going through short-term changes. This is a clear sign that the current drop isn't the end of XRP. Instead, it's just a short-term market correction that will end soon. Next, let us look at how institutional backing for XRP is doing. Even though short-term changes in prices, more and more financial companies around the world are working with Ripple. Over 300 financial institutions use Ripple's technology to make foreign transactions faster and cheaper. This makes Ripple a leader in the cross-border payments market. Large companies around the world are starting to use Ripple's technology in XRP money, and that adoption is only growing. One of the most important things that is driving XRP's long-term potential is the rising interest among institutions in it. It is not affected by short-term price changes. The fact that XRP is backed by institutions shows that its real value is not in